Hey everybody, it's Connie, the Compassionate Medium. How's everyone doing tonight? Give a few seconds, let everybody kind of join in and pull up the link here. Okay, so tonight is a special episode of Chatting with Joel and guests. And for those of you that haven't joined before, Joel is my spirit guide. He's the one that facilitates everybody, all spirits that come through to me, either in my medium readings or paranormal investigations. He's even with me when I do my Reiki long distance healing. So we normally have guests like celebrities that have transitioned on to the afterlife, historic figures, unsolved murder cases, all kinds of different things like that. So tonight, he is my special guest, and we're going to be talking about a very possibly controversial issues tonight. And I may get run out of town if a lot of people see this video. But we're going to be talking tonight with Joel about the truth about heaven, hell, and God. So that should be very, very interesting night. I also want to go ahead and tell you that this coming Wednesday, we'll go back to our regular schedule, which is every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. And because of this issue that we're talking about tonight, heaven, hell, and God, Joel gave me two choices to have a vote on as to who you all wanted to speak with. So we had a choice between Adolf Hitler and Jeffrey Dahmer, two very well-known individuals that were not so nice when they were here on Earth. So the vote ended tonight, and the actual winner and the person we'll be chatting with this coming Wednesday night is Jeffrey Dahmer. So that should be very, very interesting. So, as we start delving into this chat tonight, Joel is with me always. You're going to see me looking over here to my right because that's where Joel is normally at. He's usually on my right. When I do have a guest here, the guest takes over in this right area, and Joel sits right behind me. So you'll always see me kind of looking over here to my right because that's normally where he is with me, him or the guest that we're chatting with. So you'll see me looking back and forth. I put out a post hoping that we could get some questions tonight that I could ask of Joel, but I didn't see we didn't get a lot of questions coming in this week. That's okay, because I'm sitting here, I'm watching everything scroll by, so I'll try to keep up if anybody posts a question that we can ask of Joel. Now, hey Lisa, hi Sandra, Dawn, see you guys. Hi Michelle, nice to see you. And I was just talking about Joel being my spirit guide, and he is going to be the guest tonight. He wants to add insight to an issue that, like I said, could get me run out of town in this little small town that is still very closed-minded about a few things. So, but you cannot say no to your spirit guide. When he asks you to do something, you need to do it. Or when she asks you to do something. Spirit guides are also females. Joel wanted to open it up tonight and talk about heaven, hell, and God. And You know, I was raised, we talked about this, I think, a couple weeks ago, very strict Southern Baptist belief. And that's one of the reasons that I suppressed my abilities for so long, because I was taught, you know, that it was either all my imagination, all in my mind, or that it was wrong. And it says in the Bible that you shouldn't listen to mediums and psychics, but that text in the Bible has been taken out of context so much, because if you are familiar with the Bible, if you've read about the Bible or heard about the Bible, there's been prophets for as long as we can go back and read about. So prophets are none other than mediums or psychics. So there's good ways and bad ways to look at it, I guess. Joel has been working with me for the last 7 years pretty extensively with building up my abilities from where they were suppressed for so long, and answering a lot of my questions that I had. And not only he answering a lot of my questions, but the people that I have, the spirits, that I've communicated with, has also added a whole great deal of insight to me about this subject, heaven, hell, and God. So we'll go ahead and get started and start talking wherever he wants to start. So okay, he says that we might as well start with the big guy himself. You're going to hear me. You're going to hear me talking when Joel talks about God. He doesn't call him God. He calls him the source. So that's what you're going to hear me saying a lot of times, is when he's talking about the source. To you, it can be God. It can be any higher being that you believe in. You can call him whatever, him or her. You can call him or her whatever you want to call. But Joel calls him the source. Joel is saying that the source is the creator of all, and the source is pure energy, pure light, and pure love. And has always been. Each of us, as Joel is explaining, is a part of that energy. He says what is inside the source is what is inside us. Okay? He says look at it like a tree. The trunk of the tree being the source, and every little branch that comes out is us. We are all little branches of the main source. He said, so if the source is made up of energy, light, and love, so are we. That's what we're made out to be. Energy, light, and love. Okay. He is saying that a lot of people refer to him, the source, as being the Holy Spirit. And he said, in a way, that's correct because he is spirit, he is energy. And he said, being made in his image, that is correct. We are all made in his, he's saying his or her, he corrects me, his or her energy. And he says the reason he's correcting me is because the source is both male and female. Just as angels are both male and female. So there, he doesn't put a gender on him or her. He's both encompassing. Okay. He's wanting you guys, if, what do you want to know? He's saying he wants to know what you all want to know. Because that's why we're doing this, is what you want to know. So if you've got questions, please scroll them. Not seeing anything come through yet. Okay. He says we can go as deep or as shallow as you all want to go. Okay. All right. This is, okay. I'm a little anxious here, if you guys can tell, because this is such a tough subject to. I've got a question. Is he white or black or Asian, kind of thing? Why are we all so different? He said the source will appear to you what you want him to appear as. He has no ethnicity, he says. He has no color, he says. But he will appear to you the way you want him to appear. He says the reason we are all so different as far as our colors all goes back to the beginning as to where we were born and where we were raised. He says, for example, people that are black came from areas that were more enlightened with sun. Their skin was made a darker color so they would not burn as easily. And he said the lighter colors stemmed from places that weren't as sun-filled. And he says basically he likes variety. He says the different languages came from just from where they were began. People developed their own language. He says, but if you look if you remember, we are created in his image, in the source's image, and if the source is energy, light, and love, then we're all created with energy, light, and love. On the outside is our physical body. On the inside is what really matters. Our soul, our energy. Okay. He says he hopes that answered your question. Okay. Now, he's wanting to go into another topic, and we're going to do that. He wants to know if you want to talk about Jesus. Now, I know what he's going to tell me because we've already had this conversation. Okay. He wants me to go ahead and talk about Jesus. Okay. I'm going to take a deep breath and we're going to do this. Wow, this is crazy. Okay. Jesus was formed in God's image, in the source's image, just as we were. He says, as each of us are born with a distinct purpose in life, so was Jesus. He said, although Jesus realized his purpose very early in life, some of us, he says, never realized our true purpose on earth. He said Jesus was sent to be a teacher, to be a prophet, and to enlighten everyone in love and light. Okay. Okay. He says Jesus is just like me and you. As we are all sons and daughters of the source, so is Jesus. Okay, I know we can go really, really deep in this as far as talking about Jesus. And I'm willing to do that with you guys. Like I said, I may get run out of town, but that's okay. Do you want to talk about Jesus? Do you want to go deeper in Jesus? Or do you want to go on and talk about heaven and hell and things like that? Anybody answer me? Okay, anybody? Anybody want to talk about Jesus? Okay. No? Not getting any response. All right. We'll come back. if somebody does. We'll come back. Moving on, we'll talk about what we have been raised to believe heaven. Let's see what got. Okay, Dawn's interested in the difference in heaven and hell. Okay. All right. He said that heaven is not an actual place, although people call it that because a lot of religions refer it to as heaven. He said it is what it is. Sorry, this got me a little anxious tonight. It is a return to the source. He said it is a place of pure love and pure light. And he said that heaven is whatever you want heaven to be. He's saying, for example, if you were raised to believe that heaven was a place where you have the streets of gold and the gates of pearl and the mansions and all of that. He said, if that's what you want your heaven to be, that's what it will be. He said it is where all spirit, all energy just returns to the source himself or herself. He said, so heaven is what you want it to be, but it is a place of pure love and light. And it is a place where you will meet people that you have loved in this physical world. I know that when we were chatting with Freddie Mercury and Prince, the musicians said that their heaven was music, that was their bliss, that they played music a lot and they jammed a lot. And he said that is true. You will be able to do what your bliss is. He said, however, there will be times of learning. That this is a place where you will be able to reflect on your life or your lives, he says, as to what your purpose was, as to whether you fulfilled your purpose, and you'll have a chance to study and learn. And have a chance to do better if you want to. So when you say have a chance to be better, you're talking about reincarnation. Yeah. Everyone has a choice if they want to be reborn. That is a choice given to you. He said a lot of people think that that's a karma thing. You know, if you didn't live a good life in this one life, that you would have to come back as something different. He said that's not really what that is about. He said it's more of fulfilling your purpose, that sometimes it takes several lives to completely fulfill what your purpose is. He said, is that sufficient on heaven? Does that answer your questions about heaven? Okay. Okay. Lisa's asking, some people talk about stages. Are there stages? Are you talking about when you cross over, is that what you're talking about, Lisa? When you transition? I think it is. He's saying not really stages. He said it's more like steps. When you first transition over, um, he said the first thing that will occur, like levels. Oh, like levels in heaven? No. He said no, not. He's saying not as you're thinking of levels being. I'm gonna turn my light on here. There we go. He is saying that there are stair steps that you will go through when you transgression or trans. Y'all, I'm anxious tonight with this topic. When you transition, he said the first thing you will do is have your life review. Okay. And then he said, from that point on, you will begin your learning. And as you learn, you advance to a higher level. He said, but as far as stages or levels of heaven, no. He said there are levels of learning, such as becoming an enlightened spirit, like a spiritual teacher. If you're wanting to become a spiritual teacher, that of course is a higher level. He said, but as far as being, I was a better person than this person, so I'm up here and he's down here. No, that's not what it's like. Okay. He's saying just look at it as a place where there's nothing there he said there's no burdens like there's burdens here on earth, that we're free of all the burdens of all the pain and guilt and all the emotions that we have here on earth, and it's nothing but light and love. Judy's asking, will we be in body form or something different? Okay. He said we will be in the form of energy. He says because when we separate, when our spirit, our energy leaves the body, we become our energy form. However, for me, example, when I speak to people who have transitioned over, they give me what they looked like in the physical world. They're still able to keep that memory of their body. Okay, that makes sense to me. I mean, and I hope that answered you, Judy. It won't be body form. You're in your form, your energy form. However, people can see you in your body form if you like with me being a medium, I'd be able to see you in your physical form. We're still able to connect with it that way. Okay. Okay. He says if we're ready to move on, he said we'll move on to hell. He said what hell is the what hell is the opposite of love, which is fear. It's not a physical place. He said hell is what you hell is what you do here on earth. Hell is what you put yourself through here on earth. Is that what you're saying? He said it's not a physical place that you go to where you're punished, where you're burnt, where you're suffered. No. He said because all energy returns back to the source, and the source is pure love and pure light. Okay. He said one of the reasons that he put the two people up to be voted for this coming Wednesday night session all has to do with that, heaven and hell. He wants to reveal from speaking with someone who wasn't so nice here on earth. Okay, that makes sense. There's so many things that we can delve into that would be really, really discussions that could be a whole nother episode in its own. Like he is talking about soul contracts. It is a contract that you enter into between you and the source before you enter earth form into your physical body. And a soul contract is basically what your life will be, what you will be while you're here, what your purpose is to fulfill while you're here. And he said it can be good or it can be evil. However, it is a contract. He says he says he doesn't want to make you think it's predestined, because it's not really predestined. We all have the free will to make our own choices. And for every soul contract, there is a purpose. There is a reason. He said the two examples that he gave for us to vote on was Hitler and Jeffrey Dahmer. He said just as Hitler had a soul contract, And he was, and he agreed upon that soul contract before he was born, before he was put on earth. That's a whole nother subject. It's a whole nother subject we can get into. He said, but we all have a soul contract. All of us. Okay? He says he can tell I'm very anxious. I am very anxious, just because of the subject matter. You know, where most of us live is not open-mindedness, I guess, and it's kind of a hard thing to talk about. Okay, we got another question. So it's like an agreement kind of contract. Yes. Yes. Exactly. We agree what kind of lives, yeah, we're going to live. Yeah. And he goes back to say, because every contract has a purpose. Which is, you know, it's still hard. It's hard for me to fathom, just talking about Hitler, for example, what his soul contract was to be the person he was, and therefore was so evil. And, you know, what could the purpose have been on that? But that's another subject too, so we don't want to get into that too. Let's see, we've got another question up here. So Kelly asks, is the meaning of life to, if one chooses to be reborn, the end goal? Is it to achieve spirituality enlightenment? He says, yes, most definitely. We are striving for spiritual enlightenment. He said, and it all goes back to the source. We are created from the source. With the source is being pure light and pure love and pure energy. We are striving to become that pure love also. And he says, he said, as far as being reborn again, that is a choice that everyone is given. You know, you're not required to be reborn again, but that is a choice you're given. For example, when we talked to Prince, he said he wasn't right now going to be reborn because he was more of a spiritual guide to musicians that are here on earth that are struggling or having difficulties. That's what his desire was to be right now, was kind of like a guide to them. Yeah, so he said, we're all given that opportunity. But we all have free will. It's free will. Freedom of choice. Okay. Good question. Okay, so he says we've talked about God, the source. And heaven, we've talked about what that is. And hell, what it is and what it isn't. He said that the source being pure light and pure love wants everyone to return back to him slash her. And if he is of pure love and pure light, why would there be the opposite to go to, he says. He said hell is the absence of love. And that's what we have when we're here on earth. Because when we return to the source, we're full love and light again. That makes sense to me. So Don's asking, so for people like Dahmer and Butler, is there punishment for them for their evil acts in their lives? And he said, we'll talk to Dahmer Wednesday. He said, however, it all goes back to the soul contract. Hitler, gotcha. It all goes back to the soul contract. That was agreed upon before they were even born on what kind of people they were going to be and what was going to happen and what they were going to do. All for a purpose, all for a reason. All for them to learn. He said as far as punishment, and punishments in quotes, their punishment is in their own mind, in their own heart, here on earth, because the separation happens. You have the physical body, and then you have the soul. The physical body is what created the evil. The soul is made in the image of the source, so it's pure light and pure love. So it's a separation of the two. Sorry. He says when we speak to Jeffrey Dahmer Wednesday, you will hear him probably say, are you talking about the physical body or the soul? He just keeps going back to the soul contract. It's a soul contract. Okay, another question. Is the goal, Kelly wants to know, is the goal, if one chooses so, to be more godlike or the source, a heightened level of spiritual growth? He says, exactly. He said, we are all part of the source, like the tree trunk and the branches. We are part of him, therefore we are him, light and love. And as we grow, as we learn, we become more spiritually enlightened, to begin to understand that the physical body is not all there is. That we become more aware we become more aware that the love and light that's inside us all I'm trying to explain how he is to me. He said, like, from the beginning of time, things have progressed. Things have gotten better each step along the way. He's saying, as far as war, as far as hate, prejudice, anything like that you can think of. He says, from the beginning of time, we have begun to advance. Okay? He said, we still have wars, we still have prejudice, we still have hate. But as it's gone on and on and on, it's gotten a little better. He said, as the more people become more spiritually enlightened, and the more we let love take control, he said that's the whole main reason of existence. Kelly, does that answer your question? I hope so. He says he doesn't want to go into too much because he keeps bringing Hitler. He keeps bringing Hitler up in the conversation because of the physical life he lived when he was here. He said, as evil and as without love as he was, there was a purpose for that. So we'll just leave it at that, I guess. Okay, we got another. Kelly has another question. Is there any truth to what some believe is the left door, where someone has become evil and has fulfilled their contract which was made? Is that myth or symbolism? Or bullshit? Okay, let me read that again because I think I left some. Is there any truth to what some believe is the left door, where someone becomes evil and has done the devil's work, thus breaking the contract with above, then pulled into the left door and are reborn? This cycle will repeat until that evil soul has fulfilled their contract, which was made, or that is that myth or symbolism or bullshit? Okay. Okay, he says, with a soul contract, going back again to everyone has free will to fulfill or not to fulfill. However, he says, when a contract is not fulfilled, he said, as far as punishment, he said the punishment will be to learn why that contract wasn't fulfilled, what reason existed that it wasn't, and then it is the soul's choice to either reborn to redo again or to choose another to just stay in spirit. Just, I'm jumbling up his words too much. He says your choice is always to be reborn, and when you are reborn, he said, yes, you will. Your spirit remembers the purpose that you were there from the other life, and yes, it will continue on that same path. But the choice is always yours. You're not made to be. He says, no. He said, you're not automatically just shipped back out because you didn't fulfill your contract. He said, but he wants everyone to realize that for every contract, good, evil, there is a purpose. And that purpose is to become more enlightened. Okay, I kind of get it. Makes sense. And he said, like himself, his choice was to become a spirit guide. He said, and that's a whole nother episode too. Okay. No, that's pretty good. He says that he really would like to get into more questions as far as things like religion, the Bible, Jesus, things like that. He said because he thinks people need to realize the truth and to have understanding. Okay, is there any more questions? Does anybody want to put out any more questions? No better time to ask them than now. He says he can't believe anybody's not asking questions. No? No questions? Okay. Well, if you all are interested in doing an episode about what he just mentioned, religion, the Bible, Jesus, we may have to do that too. Lisa, okay, we got a question. Okay. I think we're going to have a question coming up here in a minute. But he said, if you're willing, he would like to chat about that too. Here's another question from Kelly. Is it true we have 5 exit points and that we're predetermined before being born? He says there are exit points, but not necessarily 5. But they're not predetermined in a way that our physical body would know about. Does that make sense? Yeah, there's exit points. He says there definitely are exit points. That's a great question. Because that's something I didn't know either. I didn't know that. Okay. Okay, Lisa asks, how can we speak with past loved ones if they return back to Earth? That's a good question. I've asked him the same thing. Because the spirit, he says, is not linear. I get it. I get it. But I'm trying to figure out a way to make them understand. There goes my light again. Sorry, guys. Okay. The spirit can take the form of any physical body it has ever possessed for the purpose of things like that. He says it's more like a memory, like an engraved memory. And he said just as people who have been reborn into other lives will sometimes remember what their other lives was, the soul has a memory. Right. He says the soul has the memory. He said, so when, like myself, when he brings a spirit to me, he said he could bring it to me in the energy form. He said, but it's easier if they come in the physical form just because that's the way our brains are wired. He says sometimes, he's telling me this, if somebody sees what they perceive to be a ghost, like the misty figure or just the flash of light or something like that, he said that is the soul. He said if you see a ghost in the form of the body, he said that's the soul's memory that's presenting to you. He says the soul always remembers what they were, who they were, what their life was in a past life. He said, but we're not wired to do that. We're not wired to believe that. And a lot of times it doesn't ever come out what our past lives were. I hope that makes sense. That's a good question, too. He says children are really, really good at remembering past lives because their human brain has not been shut off to not believing. He says to not believing. He said that's the same as with children see spirits because they've not yet been told there's no such thing, or you're just imagining it, on and on and on. He said children are really good because their brains have not been, he says, been closed off to the truth. Makes sense to me. That makes sense. Any other questions? Anybody else? Explain exit points. Okay, Dawn wanted me to explain exit points. Okay. What are exit points? He says just look at it like you were in a theater and there's several exit doors. And you can choose to go out either one. He said just like the soul, when it's born into a physical body, has exit points, points that they can leave this physical world. And he said, the soul always knows those exit points. The physical body does not. And he said, just for example, take people who commit suicide. That was an exit point that the soul chose to take. He says, just as though when someone has been told they're dying and there's like no hope that they'll live, that they're dying, he said, and then all of a sudden they don't die, they get better. He said that was an exit that the soul decided not to take. Does that make sense? Okay, that's another question. Okay, Lisa says, are we humans the only light source? Are there others in the planet other than here on Earth? I know what he's going to say. We've had this discussion before. He said, Earth is not the only place. He said, there are other places that have he said they're different forms. He said everything is from the source. Everything is from the source. So he says, everything has part of the source in it, from plants, animals, insects, reptiles. He goes as far as says amoebas, microorganisms, all are from source. So he says, yes, there's definitely others. question. Any other questions? It's getting really interesting now. I'm calming down just a little bit. Whew, I was a little nervous there at first. I never felt that way. I'm sorry. I'm kind of chuckling because Freddie Mercury just popped in back here. Sorry, he's being really silly. He said he wanted to calm me down. I don't know if he calms me down or makes me more nervous. Okay, whew. Freddie just said, sorry, guys. The one thing that he wished would stop is the divisions of religion. He said because that's done more harm than good. Then, you know, that he said there's so many things associated with religion that's evil. He said wars and people being killed, and he said he just wished that there wasn't a separation of religions. Yeah, I know what he's saying. All right, we got another question from Dawn. Can spirits affect the lives here? He says most definitely. Joel is my spirit guide, but he helps affect my life. Does that make sense? Spirits can help lead. They can help protect. He said, of course. He said, of course they can. Sorry. I wasn't expecting that at all. Yes, spirits can affect our lives here. And he adds, if we allow them to. He talks about becoming enlightened. There's more and more people beginning to talk about spirits and communication with spirits than there ever has been. He said, and that just shows the step of enlightenment, the steps we're taking to improve our enlightenment. That communication is getting easier because we're becoming more enlightened. I'm sorry. Freddie's right here in my ear singing to me. He's trying to lighten up the conversation a little bit. Are there any more questions? This has been a really good chatting episode, I think. It turned out okay. I was really anxious about it, but I think it turned out really good. And if everybody liked it enough, we may come back and do some extra chattings about other stuff that you might be interested in. remind everybody that this coming Wednesday at 8 o'clock is our regular time for chatting episodes, and Jeffrey Dahmer will be our guest. So we'll speaking to him. So, with no further questions, I'm going to head and finish this up, and we'll see you Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Thanks for joining, everybody.